No. We're ready. We're ready to go. Okay. So sorry about this, folks. Go ahead.
Okay, well, today I'm really excited because I am talking to Vinny Eastwood across the world in New Zealand, and it's early for him. We're going to be talking today about what's going down in New Zealand and basically obtain a freedom report as to the state of the union. And, you know, I'm hearing a lot of fear from New Zealand, and mostly from parents that are worried about kids being vaxxed mandatorily, but also the masks, and then, of course, just the depletion of civil rights. Can you give us a little bit more of a lowdown?
Yeah. The fear is being pushed primarily by the mainstream media, and you have a significant portion of these email outs and things of that nature that I've signed up to just to sort of watch enemy communications, as it were, just absolutely flooded with this fear porn. If that's what gets you off, ladies and gentlemen, the mainstream media in New Zealand is the equivalent of a fear porn rag. And there is.
It's the same here.
It's global, and that's something we were saying off air, is that when I started doing what I was doing, like maybe 12 years ago at this point, in 2007, 2008, the thing that I recognised is that when I was listening to American talk radio and the freedom movement back in those days, that when I went to New Zealand protests, I would interview the activists, and they would be telling me the exact same things that the Americans were saying were going on in their country was going on in my country. And that's what clicked me on to the fact that we are not facing individual threats here, we are facing a collective threat from every single direction.
We are. And, you know, I've got a real international network. And when I start seeing the propaganda, and it's following the same line, and it doesn't matter if it's Australia, New Zealand, UK, Canada, US, and then of course everything pops up with its provincial or its state spin. And we saw that. I'm actually sharing an article I was right before I started talking to you about cynical spreaders. That's the latest in Canada, to describe people like us who are questioning these measures. They've come up with a new slogan. We're called cynical spreaders.
Right. Well, that's funny.
It's a psychological minefield every day. And for me, I know what I'm looking at. I've spent a lot of time in my life traveling in countries where propaganda is rife. And when I'm seeing it, I've never seen it to the extent that I have in the since the pandemic began.
It's certainly ramping up, and further on a few days ago, I'm helping out the Advanced New Zealand Public Party, because they are standing up against Agenda 21, they're standing up against the communist infiltration, they're standing up against the lockdowns in a way nobody else is, and they're getting a heck of a lot of attention. In fact, last week, since the lockdown, Lockdown 2, Judgment Day, the amount of hits that the Facebook page of the New Zealand Public Party have been speaking out against these lockdowns, and in fact predicted a week 2 lockdown of August back in almost the same time last month, about a month to the day that he came on my show, Billy Te Kahika from the New Zealand Public Party Advanced New Zealand Alliance. He said that there was information coming from at least 11 different sources within the government bureaucracies that had tipped him off that there was going to be a lockdown in week 2 of August. And all these minor parties and people called him conspiracy theorist and that kind of thing. Where are those people now? Right? They're in lockdown.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Our politicians are doing the very same. They're completely ignoring the imminent danger that we are facing and the depletion of our rights. And they're on holidays and they're promoting the mask for school because that's coming up for us here in Canada. And they're riding on the COVID opportunity for votes, and it's just despicable to watch. I've been watching the New Zealand Public Party, and that's interesting because he is an articulate, like they are articulate in everything they speak of, but they're the first out there as a political force that I'm seeing globally that is actually talking about Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and the real motivation behind all of this.
That's
reset.
That was the whole thing that really got me interested, because I'm actually cynical, and my band actually did we created a song called "Cynical," and the chorus says, "I'm cynical of all your promises. I'm cynical of all your allegations. I'm cynical of everything you stand for because I looked at your track record." And this is the thing that's happened here, is that as a journalist I've had to be in contact with a lot of people who are not convinced that the Advanced New Zealand and New Zealand Public Party are on the level. They're in fact convinced that there's some kind of New World Order plant or sideshow or something of this nature designed to deceive us. And with each accusation we've had to look into the information, and it turns out to be nothing, really. And I've never seen that actually happen before, where somebody is involved in politics, having their life torn apart by every person from this way to Sunday, and not actually be able to find anything concrete bad that they've done. Things that are suspicious, a lot. In fact, I'm still not totally convinced, but then again, I'm not even totally convinced of what my own role is here, you know. And I've got
me either, but I'm just doing it. Like the minute this started, I was like, every day a video, telling it from the global perspective and the Agenda 2030 UN goal perspective, because they could never have achieved, and they would never achieve Agenda 2030 goals, because when I assessed it, thinking I was going to dive in and teach about it, I went, well, you know, it could never be their goals, because in a democracy where we live, we have checks and balances, and they needed to create an environment and a playing field with no checks and balances, hence states of emergency. We're all under them.
Yeah, well, we had Billy TK on the show, what was it, on Tuesday, 2 days ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I asked him, you know, are we under martial law? And basically, yeah, we're under martial law right now. We've got troops on the streets and things of that nature, testing people and modifying checkpoints and things like that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're under military rule. They've taken our country without a shot being fired. Okay, such is the weakness of the public pushback, and I think that's why Billy's getting so much attention right now, is because he's the only person who is actually voicing that real, genuine concern for the people, that yes, we're being taken over by global forces. Yes, we have a real problem here with our democracy. And me personally, I don't like the whole idea of government, because it comes from governe, which means to control, and mente, which means the mind. So if you're talking about a government school, oh, it's a mind control school, is it? Oh, you're talking about a government healthcare, oh, it's mind control healthcare, is it? And you know, it's not something that I necessarily support. And the reason why I'm behind the Advanced New Zealand Public Party at this point is because it's a tactical decision on my part. All right, I have a look at all the other parties, and have they got good skills? Some of them maybe. Have they got good reach on social media? No. Have they got a good appearance in terms of looking mainstream? No. Have they got the great? You know, that's the thing. There's a huge amounts of components that are actually needed to be, a lot of moving parts and a lot of people, a lot of teamwork that has to happen before you can even have a shot at getting any recognition in politics. And at the moment, because the mainstream media is censored to such a degree, the primary means of doing that is through social media, YouTube shows, and things like this with this broadcast, because we have been cut off from all other forms of support, and so the reason why the party's growing so fast is because people are actually seeing it, they're agreeing with it, and they're sharing it to all the people that they know. That's the entire growth of the movement right there, is people seeing it, sharing it, and getting it out to people, because otherwise we wouldn't be getting anywhere. And what Billy has...
We are buried in political correctness to the point where we're not allowed to talk about what's going on. And this is how it's, to me, we have way more than a majority, but people are buried. They're not speaking up. They're getting along, and we've become, well, Canadians are known to be very polite, and we are. We're not that. I don't think a lot of people are genuine in their beliefs, and this whole episode is challenging people to stand for something. It's time to stand for. Nobody in my country, they don't stand for things. They're just wishy. It's a wishy-washy environment that government has created of people with no clear opinion, and this is where people are coming strong. They have to.
500 years ago, an author recognized that the reason why people would obey tyrants who were ordinarily just very weak-looking people, you know, they probably couldn't take you in a fight. The reason why you stand down to them is because, not of your fear, not at all. It's because of your indifference. All right, you don't actually really care. You don't actually want to really stand for something. You're not really willing to take a knock or two in order to get your point across. And that's what I think is going to happen here. Is it's not going to be a violent revolution like the United States does. It's going to be a non-violent, disobedient revolution like it was more in India. And people died and people got beaten the hell out of, but nobody got up in arms and started shooting about the place. No war dragged on for years and things of that nature. It was just over, because there was overwhelming force of people who would not comply with their rulers, and that's what needs to happen here. And if it happens here in New Zealand, as an example to the rest of the world, there's no telling what the ripple effects might be and what other Billy TKs there might be out there lurking amongst the shadows, ready to emerge into the light.
Well, yeah, you know, we know there's goals of all of this, and now, I mean, I'm more familiar with Australia, but New Zealand, how much of a Chinese influence are you dealing with in your country?
Well, that's the other thing that Advanced New Zealand really brought to the table is Jamie Lee Ross, who has been a National Party Member of Parliament for quite a number of years, and he was the first to leak a recording between him and the former leader of the National Party, Simon Bridges, where they were talking openly about selling one Member of Parliament's seat to a Chinese investor so that they could put one of their people in for $100,000. Now, as a direct result, as you'd expect from the New Zealand media, Jamie Lee Ross, the guy who leaked that information and showed the very, very blatant infiltration of New Zealand politics into both parties, and is calling for the communist infiltration to be investigated and to be resisted. They try to splash him out in the media and denigrate his name and that kind of thing in the public mind. And Billy TK, who's been coming out of this very, very late in the day, like less than 2 months before the election. He's got a party, he's got a huge social media following, he's got more members than most parties that are even in the political game, and in this case mostly combined from all the minor parties, right? There's just like, it's unprecedented. We've never seen anything like it. It's exciting, and people have started to feel something that they haven't felt in maybe 60 years in New Zealand politics. Hope, real, genuine, wellspringing, inspiring hope. And it's, as a cynical person myself, it took me 2 weeks to realize what that sensation was, because I hadn't felt it perhaps my entire life.
Well, we're cynical here too. And honestly, there's not a party that offers any hope. There's containment boxes. They threw in 2017, 18, what they call the PPC. And I call them the CCP because they were sort of an offshoot of the conservatives to contain the likes of us. And nothing gets off the ground. They've done nothing but contain people, making us think that there's something being done. And right now, no, I actually see Chinese communist propaganda tactics in our media here. In fact, a story that I chased and tracked down was an absolute fraud. It was the morning of our Black Lives Matter protest, when we don't even have a movement here. It was created nationally overnight and filtered through the universities with the help and participation of provincial government and federal government. So this is how laced the whole situation is.
Yeah, it's part of what you call the protest industrial complex.
I've never been a protester. Now, I worked on legalizing hemp in Canada, but I never protested. I just opened a hemp store, and then I dived into growing hemp, not myself, but contracting. So I've never really done that. So that was new to me. And I have had my eyes opened to, I can't believe the level of infiltration here in this little city of mine.
Yeah, it's part of the Open Society Network. What they've got is they've got these branches in every country. Like in New Zealand, it's called Action Station. In Canada, it's called something else, and that kind of thing. And the people, power, and change. That's what they keep repeating: people, power, and change. And what they don't know is that these open society groups that are doing this sort of protesting and organizing is that they have a specific contract, like a franchisee, and if they violate the terms of the contract, or if they don't do protests when they have to do protests and things of that nature, if they don't protest what they're supposed to protest that the organization Open Society wants, then they lose their contract, and then they will lose all this funding, that kind of thing. And you will look at this and you go, okay, what about these tar sands protests that shut down a whole bunch of oil stuff in Canada, right? A lot of people remember that. What they don't remember is that at the same time, the Rockefeller Oil Corporation magnates and things of that nature were making a heck of a lot of money of bringing in their own oil and importing it into Canada instead of Canadians being able to drill it themselves and not need them anymore. And they managed to keep oil at a premium as a result of the protesters shutting down the attempts for Canadians to become more independent on the international oil market. Who's funding these groups, ladies and gentlemen? Where is the money coming from? People don't just go out and do things unless there is a reason for it. That reason can sometimes be their heart and their truth and their honor, and that reason can sometimes be money and ideology and cult indoctrination.
Well, I have to be gravitating to the cult indoctrination because, again, we're being required, and many people here now are being required to mask their humanness and their ability to breathe proper oxygen and exchange CO2, and even suggesting that children do it. And I can't believe we're actually contending with the requirement to deplete one's oxygen. It's shocking to me.
Well, they've been trying to talk about this carbon-free future, and a lot of people have been maybe missed the point that they are actually carbon-based. Sorry, what?
Focused on the carbon.
Yeah.
Not the oxygen.
Yeah, that's right. So we want to get rid of the oxygen, we want to get rid of the carbon. Next, we're going to get rid of the sunlight, and then we're going to get rid of the water. Okay,
They are. They're doing solar radiation management. They are blocking our sunshine, and of course, our buddy Bill Gates. He's got his finger in every pie. Solar radiation management, the vaccines. I mean, he practically owns my province of Saskatchewan. He's donated to libraries, universities, vaccines. Biotechnology owns this province. And here, we've had 20 people have died of COVID, 20 or 21. And it's COVID related in an entire province. Of 1.2
and that's assuming they weren't elderly or would have died of the flu anyway or had underlying health conditions. And this is the thing. This is just hype. Every single bit of our attention is on this thing. It is a magician's trick, okay? Focus on this, focus on this, focus on this. Hey, look, how did I get this rabbit? You know, he stole it from you while you were looking, bro. Like, that's how that works.
You know, you watch media a lot, and I do too. So we see this a lot. And again, when you're scanning the international scene, you're seeing various blueprints of where we're at. And of course, for months, I've been trying to direct people to the plan that a lot of people seem to be trusting, and that's the COVID action plan with the World Economic Forum. And of course, that is really I call it the business plan of how everything is interwoven and will be achieved. And of course, that's all the goals, including the medical matrix and a society that's all wired in.
The God that is being created by man is an AI, and what this AI will do is it'll basically have all the power, just like any other God, of being omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. What does that mean? Well, it means wherever you go, this God is going to be looking at you and monitoring your walk and monitoring your thoughts and telling you what you can do and what you can't do, and it's not going to care, and you won't be able to stop it or reason with it or bargain with it, and you're going to live by its dictate at all times. And it'll be a voice through your phone, or it'll be a voice through your neighbor, it'll be a voice through any kind of system that is plugged in.
Through our government, it makes no sense in terms of our conditions. We're already contending with it, but it's our government doing that to us.
Well, it's our everything doing it to us, because we're complicit in this. We are to blame for this happening because we're in our inaction for however long. We haven't contributed to creating a better future. Instead, we've just been looking at this problem and trying to understand it. And now that we do understand what the problem is, we understand what the solution is. And to a large degree, this might come as a big shock to people, but the crowd is actually the solution here. There's this thing called the wisdom of the crowd and open sourcing. Now, two examples is one is a guy had a jar of jelly beans, and they asked the entire crowd, to guess how much was in the jar of the jelly beans, and the average of the guesses was within maybe 10 to 15 jelly beans of the actual total, right? That's the averaging. So what happens is people will give their opinions in, that some of them will be crazy, some of them will be very cogent, and the crowd themselves will get to rate them up or down, and eventually you actually come to very, very reasonable decisions that are very close to the truth, and just using the internet and people as an interface so that you can create your legislation, so that you can run your community, so that you can even run your household better if everybody has an app and things of that nature. What have we got to do today? What do we want to be working on? That kind of thing. Organisation is really important in societies because we are social creatures, and now we have the technology where we can basically genplex entire decision-making processes and annex the amount of representatives that we have to rule over us, because they're not needed anymore, because they can't communicate with as many people simultaneously as everybody communicating with each other collectively. Now, a lot of people will say, but the voting systems could be rigged and things of that nature. Well, sure, as if the voting system ain't rigged in the first place. But this is a step in the right direction. And another example, for example, open sourcing. Open Source Ecology is an interesting website where they've got all the farm tools and things of that nature that you would need, and you can just order the parts and then build your own tractor variants and things of that nature. So really interesting thing, very effective. And even during the Fukushima crisis, the National Nuclear Energy Commission of Japan, whatever its name is, was trying to get readings of the radiation levels around the country. and an open source program was opened up by some other people just privately, and they got people to be driving around the countryside with just meters duct taped to the outsides of their car, and they wound up getting more comprehensive and more accurate data than the National Electricity Commission was able to, right? So when people are working together and they're there because they want to be and they're contributing seriously, they are far better decision makers than you would realize.
Quite honestly, that's part of me doing all of these talks, is I want to create an international body of all of us to come together. And no, not based on you being involved in government before, based on real people who are awake, who are on target and know what's going on and understand that this knowledge needs to be shared amongst all of us, because what you're experiencing or we have, it's all the same thing. It's all the same ball of wax.
Yeah, my problem is your problem, and Mikasa is Sukasa. That's how it's working.
You know, I think, honestly as well, I my difficulty here in Canada, because my appeal was always a little bit more international. Now I'm getting a lot more local people following what I'm doing, which is great, because they were largely ignoring it, because everything I was talking about outside until now, and now it's here. But we're in a place that I call COVID light. So you wouldn't know that we have all these regulations that we're living under because people are blatantly ignoring them. They're not social distancing. They're going out on dates. They're hooking up. They're doing all the stuff they always did. And the police just aren't enforcing, but it's in place still. And I want to know about how that went down in New Zealand, like for you guys, was because when you guys went into a lockdown originally, when was that?
I think that was
February, March.
I can't recall specifically off the top of my head. It might have been late March, early April, but it seemed to go on and on and on. It felt like a good 2 months or something like that.
So you didn't really come out.
Hey?
You didn't really come out, okay? Because what we've done in Canada is they've had these reopen plans. So we're all in the stage of, a month, 2 months ago, we started reopening again slowly. Did you guys do that at all?
Yeah, we went into stage 4, and that was like full lockdown and stuff. And then they went to stage 3, where you could go and get takeaways and stuff like that, contactless pickup. And then we went down to stage 2, which is a little less restrictions. Maybe you can go and get your hair cut now. And then stage 1 was apparently normal, but now they're talking about a stage 1.5. And it's exactly as I said. If I may, it's exactly as I predicted. The day one of the lockdown is that this is an important dog whistle, and they're just going to keep using it and using it and using it and changing the rules and making it up as they go along, and it's never going to end until they've accomplished their goals, which is complete and total control of the human family.
Yes. And, well, delivering us a GMO vaccine that has never been done. I have been involved in organic and educating about, the dangers of GMO foods and why people shouldn't be eating them, because I've spent thousands of hours on the ground meeting people that I'm helping to get better using supplements and products to get their gut bacteria back from the complete destruction and bring them back from the dead in terms of their health. It worries me that they would even consider a GMO vaccine. And again, the reason we have to all be in lockdown, because they're holding us hostage to this.
And during this hostage situation, it turns out to be very good for people like me, because I never leave the house anyway. All my income is from home. It's passive and things like that. Donate at thevinnieeastwoodshow.com. And we have to think about how other people are living, and that's my great problem in life, is because I barely go out and see what's going on. I'm mostly restricted to talking to the people online and and it's getting ugly out there, man. People are feeling the pinch, and as John Rappaport on my show just the other day, I think correctly stated out that this is just one method of destroying the economy. The economy's been destroyed deliberately before, and again and again and again, and this is what the elite do time after time with one guise after another to destroy everybody's ability to pay back the debt that they've got, so that the bankers can reclaim all your real assets that you earned in the time that you were paying off your debts. All right.
And
So
a goal here of Agenda 2030, they want to get rid of any intergenerational wealth. They want to make sure by 2030 all these kids are baseline the same, all one. That's where it's going. Global, right?
not anymore. Not anymore.
You don't think so?
No. I'm not going to stand for it, and there's a lot of New Zealanders out there who ain't going to stand for it, and a lot of people all over this world who ain't going to lie down and take it. They've taken to the streets, they've taken to the internet, they've flooded the parliaments with letters. There's people out there who are prepared to fight if it does come to that, and let's hope it doesn't come to that, because that's exactly what communists want. They want you to start shooting at them and that kind of thing, because then they have a justification to come in and shoot you. All right, you remember the rules of engagement. Nobody fires unless fired upon, and I believe that we're being fired upon right now in Figment, but the day for physical resistance hopefully won't ever come, but if it does come to that, I fear for our chances, because if we don't go after hearts and minds, specifically the police, the military and the financiers, if they're not on side, there ain't going to be people to keep order in the streets, there ain't going to be people to protect the country, and there ain't going to be people to pay them to do it. All right, so
I'm already seeing in my city, okay, like, I mean, I've lived in the same house and area for 15 years and had my business for 5 before. So since this happened, the sirens never stop. Saturday, it didn't stop. I swear to God, it went 18 hours solid. It just never stops. It's not like that here, but it is now. Since these measures, since walking on the street as a female, and actually I talked to some gals in Australia the other day, last week, about the same thing. I mean, there's masked men running around now. That's not usually allowed, but it's pretty scary.
Yeah,
I don't know how people can miss this.
Well, I think it's because they've been indoctrinated over the last several decades since Agenda 21 has actually been in effect.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just, people forget that since 1992, every single piece of legislation your city halls, your central governments have passed has been in accordance with Agenda 21. Every single bit of legislation, all right, without exception, ladies and gentlemen. That's how pervasive it is. And in New Zealand, we've got all these roundtable groups, like the New Zealand Initiative, and it's got all of these huge mega corporations that are all members of it, and everybody that you'd need to fit in with infrastructure and do everything that you'd need for an Agenda 21 nightmare to be constructed around you, ladies and gentlemen. They've got the banks, they've got the medical systems, they've got the universities, they've got the lawyers, they've got the accountants, they've got every freaking thing that you could think of that's got a logo and a brand and a label, and all of those guys are members of like 2 or 3 other groups that do virtually exactly the same thing. All right, they're making all your decisions behind the scenes without your consent, and if you keep sitting around watching people like me and listening to this stuff, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to get a radical reevaluation of your perspective of reality, and number 2, hopefully you'll be motivated to get off the screen and get out there and do something.
I was talking again to the girls in Australia too about the fact that, for us here, we're finding it more beneficial to turn this into marketing rather than protests, because nobody's coming out. They're just not showing up. And there's the same 10 people all the time. it's not widening. The groups do nothing for us. What we need to do is turn this into marketing. So what we did one afternoon last week is we got downtown and we went during the farmers market and we did a marketing action called Mask Facts and gave people the other side of the equation, cold on the street. And it was beautiful. Like, it worked. And in fact, we didn't have any nasty conversations at all. We had wonderful conversations. And yeah, it's not, the media is making us think that there's nothing we can do, that this is the will of the people. And this is the role of all the propaganda we're receiving every day, just like these cynical spreaders that we have now become. And we need to connect. How did you get in touch with like the New Zealand party? How did that all come about? Or was that...
Well, they contacted me because at the time I was helping the legalized cannabis party, and I was the only person on their website that actually picked up the phone. So they asked me, would the legalized cannabis party consider changing its name to the New Zealand Public Party, to which I laughed and I said, after 25 years of this party losing election after election after election, trying the same thing again and again and again, I can guarantee you they will not change their name and join a successful movement. There's just no way that's going to happen. And so I said, okay, well, that answers my first question. What about, and the second question is, would you be thinking about helping us? And I said, well, at the moment I'm trying to raise money for a car for my wife because her car is down and we can't really fit the baby in my one, and we still have about $1,000 to raise on it. So I'll tell you what, you give me $1,000 and I'll start helping you immediately, but I'm not going to lift a finger until that happens. And so they sent me a contract, they paid me the money, and I had Billy TK on the show within maybe 2 hours of that happening, and had him on the show every week since then, and I've been doing a hell of a lot more than they paid for or contracted me for, because you know, this is just a test, because I'd been working with the legalized cannabis party for like 3 years or something like that, unpaid, and when the time came, you know, they got as a result, you know, in part of the huge amount of work I did to help them and their candidates, they got a huge grant from the government for their advertising and stuff like that, and I wanted to get a substantial portion of that, and they wouldn't pay me, and they haven't been paying me, so I was just like, okay, I've got trust issues at the moment, pay me or I ain't lifting a finger. And you know, $1,000 is nothing, right? It's absolutely nothing. It was just a test that I gave them, to say, look, do you take me seriously? Do you value my time or not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. See, this is the problem with activism. Everybody is struggling for power, it seems, but like there's nothing there. I find it interesting that my experience here is that there's nothing started, but everybody is clamoring for a spot of nothing. And I guess that's what's so frustrating for me. And then they don't want to pay anything for the services. And I'm working 16 hours a day.
They give me grief for asking for money for work that I've been doing for 12 years for free for people, you know? It's like...
Yeah. No, but again, you know, well, everybody else gets paid, so I'm just wondering why the double standard, especially because your heart's in it. No, that should make you actually probably get paid even more, I would say. But I understand there's budgetary constraints and all of those things at the beginning, like with us here in Regina, we don't have any money. We don't. And right now we're currently splitting up. You know, when we go out to print something, we split it up 3 ways. This is how we're having to do it. But there comes a time when like in the last week, I've had, I don't know, at least 10 communiques about people losing jobs and this and that and ways that I can help. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, I need some help too.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, I think, because on the one hand, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, everything that you need will turn up exactly when you need it in the right amount, you know? I mean, one time I had to jump out of bed real quick and go to my desk, and my show was about to start, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't had coffee, haven't had water, haven't had food or anything, just to do the show for 2 hours and then get off, and I was like, man, I need a pie, bro. I just need a pie. And then all of a sudden, it was my mate Dan, and he said, hey, bro, I bought you a pie. And I was like, whoa. And I think not long after that, got up on bill day, and I was like, okay, there's the power, there's the internet, there's the rent. Man, that's $500. I don't have $500, so I go to my office and turn on my PayPal, and there's €500 in there. I was like, oh yeah. It's just like, okay, that's the universe just going, you're doing all right, Vinny. Here you go. Just keep going. Yeah. Just keep going.
Just keep going.
You know, it's like that guy on what was it called? Hacksaw Ridge. You know, just one more, Lord, just one more.
I don't feel possessed. I just know that I'm supposed to be doing this every day, and I get up to do it.
You're possessed.
Every person I need to talk to seems to come, the right person, and it's all. Put it this way, normally, I used to publish a magazine, so it was a lot more difficult to get people nailed down for an interview. And you know what? With the people that have heart and passion, they're available now. They want to talk. They're not slotting you in 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, it's weird, when you reach out to people and they actually reply, and you can get shows organised with them. I mean, when I first started working with Advance New Zealand Public Party, I was like, man, how many people do I know and have interviewed on the show over the last decade that I could get on the show as pretty good advisors, stuff like that. I got Rosa Corey, who wrote Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21. I've even got a copy of it here. Here we are. Behind the Green Mask. There's even a signed copy.
She was my first teacher of Agenda 21. I started watching her years ago, and it didn't click yet. It took time to. Back in 2008 and 10, when I had my magazine, I didn't really understand the NWO as well as I do with another 10 years of researching it like crazy. And again, there were people like Rosa Corr that started out there talking about it. But again, it sort of stayed in these conservative groups. And the knowledge wasn't spread, let's just say.
I think what I've been trying to do is give people an idea of so much eclectic knowledge from good experts in their fields from so many different perspectives, and the hope therein is that the audience will become a lot more aware of the ins, outs, and what have yous, and therefore it doesn't matter which way they're attempted to be manipulated by the authorities, they know the scam. So let's say we've had somebody on about gold and silver and what that actually really means in terms of national sovereignty and the securing of the economy. Or let's say we've had somebody on about international broadcasting who can get things done on a phone that you just wouldn't believe, to be able to weaponize the people who are out there who've got this technology and can now utilize it to make a difference, to spread a message.
Now, are they mandated? Do you have to endure mandatory testing? Is that correct in New Zealand now?
Yeah, well, they can at any time. They could walk into my office right now, grab me, my baby, my wife, force us to have a test, and if we test positive to having coronavirus, and bear in mind it's 80% false positives, and the tests that they've got don't even test for COVID-19, they can then say, oh well, we've got to put you all in separate quarantine, you know, and so they'll separate my wife from my 4-month-old baby, separate me from my family, and they'll put us in separate facilities and things of that nature. And if I resist, they've got soldiers there to detain me, and if I physically defend myself, they've got guns there to shoot me. So that's the thing we've got to be really concerned about here in New Zealand at the moment, because that is not a free country anymore, ladies and gentlemen. We live in a communist dictatorship under martial law, just like the Chinese have been living in since the 1950s.
I'm seeing it. Now, how did they start that? Were they demanding, I guess, through the corporations? Because that's how I see it rolling out everywhere, is first the corporations say, hey, you know, you need to test to come to work, and they employ that. So I'm seeing actually the unions in Canada, like the teachers union, the nurses union, putting in these requirements. Is that the same case there?
I don't know specifically, but we've been hearing from business owners and things like that if they don't do what they're told to do, they can't open their business, and it's basically like that. It's like, do this or there's going to be serious consequences, you know, fines, imprisonment, all sorts of things for breaking quarantine procedures. So yeah, they've got people very, very scared, and a lot of people are bottoms up in debt from the last lockdown, and then this new lockdown here when they can't draw any income, you know. And for me, this really kicked off in March 2019 with the Christchurch mosque massacre and all the subsequent legislation that came out of that. And I've got a list of factoids here, if you'll permit me just a minute or two to read them out to you. Brenton Tarrant, an Australian citizen, not a New Zealander, claims he got money from BitConnect, which he used to travel, although there is no evidence to substantiate this claim except his word. The Guardian quoted that the ABC claimed Brenton earned money from BitConnect, except there's no mention of BitConnect in the article they linked. With this alleged money from unconfirmed sources, Tarrant travelled to multiple areas around the world, but his first stop was Israel, where he stayed only 9 days out of a 3-month visa. Israeli officials gave no further details. The Australian Embassy and New Zealand Consulate did not respond to requests for comment either. After Tarrant came to New Zealand, he claims to have spent 2 years planning the attack and was scoping out the mosques in Christchurch for 3 months before the shooting. He obtained his gun licence in 2017 after a police visit where Tarrant gave the names of 2 New Zealand residents whom are alleged to have never met Tarrant, but instead met him in sites such as 4chan and 8chan, but that allegation cannot be confirmed as police refused to comment. Immediately buying firearms, Tarrant's behaviour and rants was noted by a fellow gun club member who reported him to police, and nothing was done about it. Just before the attacks in 2019, the Crisis X Terrorism Conference was kicking off, bringing in the best crisis management delegates from around the world, including a, quote, highly realistic simulation. Immediately preceding the attack, Facebook went down for 48 hours worldwide, and the first live stream that went live on Facebook when it recovered was this Facebook live stream by Tarrant shooting up the mosques. There were drills on the day. A New Zealand Police Armed Defenders Squad were engaged in an exercise, and the Prime Minister herself was quoted as saying somebody in armed defenders uniform walked into the mosques and started opening fire. There was also an international contingent of troops in New Zealand at the time doing a sniper drill in Christchurch, and they were given shoot to kill orders upon reporting this particular incident. After the shooting was over, the manifesto that Tarrant put out saying that he supports the communist state of China and wants the entire world to be like that became illegal to view. The video where he shot up a bunch of people, which a number of people have pointed at having inconsistencies and even perhaps triggermen in addition to Tarrant in there, has been made illegal to view. Both instances, if you were viewing the manifesto or viewing doing the illegal can mean up to 10 years imprisonment, including if you share either of those things to anyone else. This goes against the New Zealand Human Rights Act, which gives you the right to share any information in any form. People who shared the video were in fact visited by armed police, including one person where the police were pointing guns at his children's heads. A journalist reporting on the story, yours truly, was visited by police 5 times in 1 week. Subsequently, after the attacks, the government imposed a measure of censoring on the internet, and they had the algorithms all ready to go on the day of the shooting, as was proven when I was censored in the middle of a live stream the day after the attack. You couldn't say the words false flag in your titles either, otherwise those videos would be taken down, and I had up to 5 to 6 long interviews with people with that in the title that were taken down. Conspiracy theories alleging fake guns or digital fakery or no death started emerging on the internet, discrediting the real investigations that was going on there surrounding the incident, and turning it into a big media hubbub that had in fact been proven to be a bunch of lag and what would you say, frame mismanagement, as happens in live streams when something will jump from one to the other. And people have said that there was no bullets, or they were fake guns and things of that nature, and that really muddied the waters when we were trying to get some reasonable answers out of the government. The government then launched a secret inquiry into the thing. It was supposed to be a public inquiry, but they then sealed it to be secret so that the public would not be able to find out what was being investigated. The gunman himself pled not guilty and flashes a 666 Masonic hand sign to the papers. Then a gun ban was introduced and implemented 14 days after the shooting. And COVID-19 lockdown in March 2020, on day 1 of that lockdown, Brenton Tarrant pleads guilty, and the government calls off any and all investigations into the Christchurch mosque massacre. No royal commission, no inquiries, case closed. There you go.
Wow. That's unbelievable. You see, I've only seen stuff like this in bits and pieces. You know, again, Facebook, you're getting these bits and pieces, not a whole commentary. Wow. So obviously, yeah, this is just part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm
kind of stage.
I've got no suspicions at all. Like, it's just.
How could you?
It's just not rational to question the government, ladies and gents. It's just not rational.
We in Canada, we have a crisis. Well, an inquiry going on, and it's into We Charity and the fact that our Prime Minister was heavily influenced to the tune of $1 billion deal with We Charity, in which Bill Gates is a founding member of this charity. Started in 2012. And I actually have a screen recording of We Charity during that, like from 3 months ago. I did a video called Who is in Bed with China? And I put the screen recording in there with the structure and their founding partners, and it's been since changed. And now they've got a whole other sort of impropriety that they're focusing on with our finance minister, and they basically shifted the entire story, and Bill Gates has not been mentioned once. And he's absolutely integral in our involvement with this $1 billion deal. And the reason, because he's the one who wants to give us all the jab. It's being buried everywhere. I leave these comments, I'll attach my video and say, you know, go to minute 16 and you'll see the structure of We Charity. And I've had I've had censored or simply my comments reported as false. So I'm under constant sort of, like, watch your step, Martine. Don't say it again. Watch.
it's sending a chilling effect, and I felt that after the Christchurch mosque massacre, when I was actually afraid to say the words false flag on my show and stuff like that, and then a lot of people actually started accusing me of saying that it wasn't a false flag, that I believed the government official story, because all my content where I was doing my job got censored, and that's the nature of the beast, ladies and gentlemen. They had those algorithms all ready to go right before it happened, and so this is not an accident, ladies and gentlemen. They are staging so many things around the world, hyping them up with the media as justification to take everything from you that they wanted to take anyway, to get all the power that they wanted all along anyway. Right? It's just like, don't throw me to the briar patch. Don't throw me to the briar patch. Oh dear God, I couldn't tell. It's comical at this point because of the level of the deception from birth until death, ladies and gentlemen. We are massively lied to in so many ways, to the point where when somebody comes across with a big bulk of truth, you don't understand it whatsoever, and you think it is a part of a fantasy. Oh, that's just a conspiracy. Yeah, but conspiracies happen all the time. Just because something's a conspiracy doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Doesn't mean it's not real.
Well, they framed certain people as conspiracy theorists, and they have a look for that particular conspiracy theorist too, right? What I see, like, for example, BitChute. I went there because I was being censored on YouTube. So I went there to the non-censored place and found out that they deleted 18 of my videos, like 20% of my body of work.
Yeah, BitChute wouldn't allow me. BitChute wouldn't allow me to upload my censored videos from Christchurch either.
They wouldn't. Oh, see, this is why we got to talk, my friend. If mine say anything about the World Economic Forum, the COVID action plan, Agenda 2030 gets through. Bill Gates, biotechnology. I have one called the Wicked Web of the New Order. So basically, how the COVID action plan works into the medical matrix. So none of those will fly. They are deleted. 18 of them. And circular economy. That's another buzzword they don't want to see on BitChute.
Whoa. This just goes deep, doesn't it?
They're the World Economic Forum in disguise.
Well, I think everything's everything in disguise to a large degree. Yeah. It's like Russian dolls, It's just like, oh my God, there's another doll in here. There's another one. There's another one.
But okay, look at David Icke. When he got that London Reel, that got taken down, right, and banned, and there was all this kerfluffle. Well, then he went over to BitChute, and they allowed him.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like selective enforcement or something like that. It's most of it's just being done by AI. I think to a large degree. There isn't somebody actually sitting down there and watching a 3-hour episode of the Vinny Eastwood Show to see if there's anything objectionable or how objectionable it is. And then when they demonetize my channel back then, I have lost like a huge section of my income. Like normally would be getting super chats all the ways through the shows, and now it's very, very rare for me to have even a single donation sitting in the bank account when I'm done, when I've finished the show, let alone 10, 15 or 20 during. It's made a massive difference having YouTube demonetize you, and they demonetize you without even saying why. They say, oh, it's under this clause that has like about 20 different possibilities, none of which actually apply to you, and we don't cite any examples, therefore your income's gone because we said so.
It's shocking because, in the past, like I knew when I started my channel, they'd never let me monetize. I knew it wasn't going to happen at all because it was only 8 months ago that I started the channel, and it just wasn't going to happen. And because I kept seeing everybody else getting demonetized, so I went out with the knowledge. But I can't believe there's a lot of people all over the world that are still plugging away getting that truth out there, monetized or not. And I guess to me that,
Well, I've been doing this for 12 years. I mean, I've got nearly 50,000 subscribers on this channel now, and that's with being shadow banned. I mean, so many of my subscribers are commenting in the chat rooms and things of that nature that they didn't get a notification for this show, that they've been unsubscribed for some reason, that they've been unfriended on Facebook for some reason. That kind of thing.
I've had blocks. Now, I do block people. Believe me, I won't put up with trolls.
Oh, don't tell me about blocking. I've blocked about half of Facebook. I'm working on the rest, but
I'm glad. People try again. There's that social pressure. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, yeah, I can. Watch me.
I mean, look, people, it's just like almost like they don't enjoy squeezing a pimple here or there. It's just like, this is it. It's unsightly. You don't want it there. Just if that pleasure of just getting it out of there.
Well, when you're working at it, and again, it's not really, a money thing that you're doing it for. You're doing it for heart and passion and putting a lot of your time into it. It goes, promote what you're promoting on your own page. And they never do. They want to use your audience to do it. Yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of that going around. Now, the other thing is when we talk about getting an audience, it's about really finding your own voice, because everybody's got, their idols, and you love the David Icke, you love the Alex Jones or whatever. But when you go out there, you try to be like them at first until you find out that, hey, they're not me, I'm not them, I have my own voice here, I have my own perspective, I have my own drives, I have my own skills, and I want to be the best me. I don't want to be a copy of something else, and that's an important thing.
For me, again, I didn't really watch a lot of these people before. I get that. People send me videos, like 50 a day, and I'm like, I don't really, I'll kind of go to them for reference, but honestly, I want to come up with my own opinion before I start, again, hearing, because you do get guided by others' opinions. It's important that you take the information and go through it and come up with your own conclusion. And then you can bring in the other people and their opinions and the way that they go about things. I get a lot of people who want me to do things the way other people do it. And it's like, no, that's not me. My thing is the gift of the gab. Yeah.
You can get a lot done. In fact, I was just thinking about this. I haven't actually had a proper meeting with anybody from the Advanced New Zealand Public Party and that kind of thing. And just the amount that I can get done if I'm hosting the meeting sort of thing makes people just go, holy cow, we walked away from this meeting with something, It's either a framework or a finished product or new directions to go in or lists of tasks and things of that nature. I don't like wasting time. And that's why live streaming is so good. I remember I was doing 3-hour shows at the point and then having to edit them and then upload them afterwards. And when live streaming came and I can just switch from camera 1 to camera 2 to camera 3 to camera 4 to camera 5 to camera 6 to camera 7 and then back to whatever I'm doing again, I realized that, hey, you know how long it takes to edit a 3-hour live stream? 3 hours, including doing the live stream, and it's been so much more effective at the use of time. And I haven't been I haven't been reading YouTube comments or Facebook comments this last week or so, just as an experiment to see how much more productive my time is going to be. And I'm not sure if I've noticed really too much of a difference or something like that, but I think that we need to get stuff done with the short amount of time that we have. And let's be effective, let's not waste it, and let's have something to show for everything that we do. Otherwise, what's the point in doing it? Because all you're going to do is forget what you did and then have to go over it again, and you're just wasting people's frickin' time. The clock is ticking here.
Yeah, I don't know. I was covering stuff about, again, the World Economic Forum 3 months ago and the COVID action plan. I'm past that now, and let's actually be productive here, because honestly, the amount of information, and that's all by design, making sure people are buried with so much information that they can't emerge into action because it's just too much. And that's the whole point of doing these talks around the world, is to, again, draw some connection between all of us, and because we're all in a different stage of the same boat.
Yeah, we're all on the same boat, and that's what we have to recognise at this point. It's like, do you want to have somebody tell you what to do, and have you never ever in your life be able to say no? Is that what you want for the rest of your life?
Intervention in your home. Intervention from public health in your home with the ability to come in and supersede mom and dad in the care of their children. I mean, to me, I'm not a parent, but that would scare the shit out of me.
Well, I was thinking about this. I mean, I've just got my baby. You won't be able to see this on the screen here. Let me see if we can show it to the audience. This is my baby here, and she's very, very cute with a babyness, and I'm really quite concerned that these people can come into my home without a warrant and just start pumping her full of vaccines. That's a real concern to me, because I'm not willing to allow that sort of thing to happen, but I don't have the means to protect her from this. This is a far graver threat than I myself alone can face. You know, I can't just click my fingers and have 20 hard men with weapons and gear all of a sudden at my door to defend my keep or something like that. And so this causes a lot of ongoing anxiety, and people are they know about fight or flight, but they don't know about the freeze response. Okay, it goes fight, freeze, flight. Those are the three different things, and that would be your anger, that would be your fear, and that would be your anxiety as the freeze response, ladies and gentlemen. Now, can you run away from the government? Just step out your door and run away from it. Is it no? Okay. Well, you can't do that. Can you fight the government? Can you just grab the government by the throat and beat its face in and then just stop it from hurting you? No, you can't. Okay, because it doesn't really exist. All right. So then there's only one response that your physiology is actually capable of producing when you understand the threat of government, ladies and gentlemen, and that is anxiety.
Yeah. Psychological abuse. This is what we're undergoing right now. This is an abuse campaign. It's meant to break us down, make us malleable, pliable.
Now, how do you develop post-traumatic stress or complex post-traumatic stress? You have your entire life in somebody else's hands and you having no say in it for between 1 month and 6 months. That's about how long it takes the human brain to be broken down and to develop permanent neurological disorders. Okay? And I've got this because when I was first busted with 13 grams of cannabis, they were telling me I was going to go for jail for up to 8 years for a first offence with no diversion. And I was living with that possibility for over a month, and now I'm neurologically damaged and I can't deal with stress like a lot of people can. You know, I can do things that a lot of people can't, but I can't do a lot of things that a lot of people can. You know, I have panic attacks when it comes to what's it called? Employment? Is that the word? I just can't physically do it. If people physically attack me or something, I completely freak out. I start screaming and stuff like that. You know, it's not a pretty sight, and I don't know how to get rid of this condition. But I do know that a lot of people are suffering from it, and they need to understand how to control themselves and try and live the best life that they can.
The stress is the killer. It is. It absolutely is. And, you know, I mean, again, I can't understand for the life of me how they can be pushing these tests and making them mandatory where you live with an 80% false positive rate. I mean, everywhere around the world, even the propaganda media is reporting false positives. It's crazy. So again, how can the government be behind this? This is just shocking to me. And what are your other leaders saying? Nothing.
Well, they're not saying nothing. They're saying, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. I will do your bidding, Lord Vader. That's what they're all saying, to a large degree.
They're supporting all of these policies. They're supporting them because that's what they're doing here. They're just really pretending they're all pretending we're not in a state of emergency when we're in a state of emergency.
Yeah, well, my question is,
urgency.
If this is a state of emergency, therefore it's cause to urgency, but what are we emerging into? All right, at the end of this urgency, ladies and gentlemen, that's the $1 million question, I think, and I don't think there's going to be any private property left. All right, I think they're trying to subvert private property rights in such a way that nobody will actually ever have the ability to be free and not be able to be just chucked out of their residence if they say something bad about the government, kind of thing. That's where I'm betting this is heading, which really sucks because I really love the idea of actually having my own home and raising my baby in it, and then maybe handing it off to her when we're gone, that sort of thing. But I can't think like that anymore. I remember I was looking after a autistic son of a community constable, and I asked him what it was like, and he says, well, when the realization hits you that all I wanted to do really is just to take my boy to play rugby, and I'm never actually going to see that. And you can see it in his eyes, there's just this complete despondency, I think, like as if life itself has lost a great chunk of its meaning. And that's what's going to happen to many of us if we aren't successful. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm egotistical, so I like to win. And at the moment,
I like to win too.
it makes you feel good winning, and at the moment I feel like I'm on the winning team. Advanced New Zealand Public Party, to hell with Agenda 21, to hell with the communist infiltration, to hell with all of the minor parties who aren't doing anything and aren't going to win, who aren't resisting anything effectively, to hell with the main parties. They're all compromised, they're all constitutionally incapable of really seeing the truth. Nobody is capable of seeing the truth and standing up to it as one until these guys came along, and that alone is why I'm on board.
I wish we had an alternative here, but we don't.
Well, just remember, that's one point I just wanted to make there, is that there are expat New Zealanders all around the world. Find them, ladies and gentlemen. Tell them about the New Zealand Public Party. Get them to enrol to vote at elections.org.nz and vote for them, ladies and gentlemen. Vote for them. Give them. Maybe then you'll want to come home again.
Yeah, I've met lots of New Zealand expats all over the world, Latin America, everywhere. What do you think about that? Do you think there will, where do expats go from New Zealand generally?
Go from New Zealand? Well, usually the English-speaking countries like England and America and Australia. Australia is very easy to travel to. Other Commonwealth countries and things like that, very easy to travel to from New Zealanders. But I'm not one of these well-travelled New Zealanders. I got busted when I was not even 20 years old. So I have been trapped on this godforsaken archipelago this entire time. And the only way I've been able to reach overseas is through the support of American Freedom Radio and the internet and all of these amazing listeners that we have to the show who send me the emails and contact information of the best guests in the world to interview, and this is basically my holiday. This is how I get out of this country, which I love it, but I hate it so much much because I can't leave. I can't see what the rest of the world is even like for myself. That's what my country has done to me as a result of its cannabis laws. You know, the cannabis didn't do this to me. The laws did.
It's ridiculous. At this day and age as well, it's, I mean, obviously here in Canada, it is legal now, just very expensive. So.
Yeah, and I was talking to...
But it was, go ahead, sorry.
I was talking to some guys in Canada about this from the Freedom Free for All live stream, and they're saying it's like before cannabis was legal, there was one law you had to obey: don't get caught.
Don't get caught.
But now that cannabis,
like a charm.
But now cannabis is legal, you can't have your plant over a certain size. It can't be in a certain room of the house. It can't be. You can't take it into your car and then take it down the road to your friend or something like that. So instead of one rule to obey for which you could get busted, there's now 70 rules that you could break in any given day that you could get busted for.
And the biggest thing that happened, the minute that legislation and marijuana became legal, the police have the right to pull you over for no reason. See, again, always, here's the carrot. No, the real was that our rights and our freedoms were going to be delineated.
Yeah, and also at the same time, what happened there is the alcohol companies started investing large amounts of money into the private growing of cannabis, and they produced so much cannabis using their large warehouses and things like that because they could finance it. They made the price of cannabis so low that all the independent growers basically had to go out of business. And then they bought them all out for pennies on the dollar, and now the alcohol industry controls the cannabis industry, and now cannabis has had its price raised again, and the quality has gone down because there's no competition.
Well, here the quality is, I honestly, it's not my preferred method. I liked the service and the just don't get caught of years gone by. I liked home delivery, and it was all good back then. And honestly, legalization has, to me, when I'm seeing a list like this of approved pesticides and herbicides to be used on these indoor crops, that's not something I really want to smoke. I don't.
So they've toxified.
Way to go.
Yeah, well, they've toxified it, and because most people don't grow their own, and because there's a size on how much you can grow for yourself per household, that means nobody will actually be able to grow anything for anyone else at all if they have a habit of their own to support. So it's essentially a complete killing of the cannabis industry to a large degree, and a replacement of all the natural cannabis that you should be able to smoke contaminated with huge quantities of chemicals. That, or you have to be on call like a medical doctor to tend your own plants because you've got no other choice.
They're not easy. There's a little operator here in my city that has these, kind of half buckets, and they have all the nutrients and the soil and everything all in there, and all you have to do is plant the seed. So I'm thinking of selling those.
Well, I just think that common sense is no longer common. All right, that's why I call it platinum sense, the rarest element on earth. And
well, the whole thing with cannabis. I mean, I've tried to grow it before. It just didn't. I don't understand all the nutrients, and it's a whole other area. It is. Like, I honestly believe somebody would be really smart to start a home consulting business, going house to house, just giving them a few tips, changing the light, doing whatever needs to be done on a consulting basis, because it would be absolutely worth it. Yeah,
just cruise around in your van, get all your stuff via Uber. You could call it Duba.
You could do it on Zoom.
Yeah. Or I had an idea of Dopetreon, like there's Patreon. You could sponsor somebody on Dopetreon, and you just give them money every month, and they just help out their community with their dope growing operations. All right,
Yeah. Well, somebody who could at least consult and say, that looks like it needs some nitrogen. Use this, or this needs, XXX. Again, that's what kind of screws up a lot of people. But I honestly, this year I'm looking right into it. I'm trying to sell my house though, and if I go to obviously to a rental, see, they won't allow it like it's legal, but in a lot of rentals and apartments and that type of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the I think it was 1975, the Misuse of Drugs Act. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they said medical cannabis is going to be allowed, but only if you get granted an exception by the Ministry of Health. How many exceptions did the Ministry of Health grant? 0. Oh, okay. Now, see, this is how they work. They get this whole kind of legal tapestry that all sounds nice, and then they selectively enforce the parts that sound nice away from it. As Tom Waits said, the large print giveth and the fine print taketh away.
Yeah. Well, even here where it is legal, like you can't see it. You're not allowed to look at the bud. It's everything sealed in like an amazing box, and the boxes that they sell it in, it's like they're like $10 each. They're really expensive. So they're giving you this high end plus the cardboard, this shui container, all sealed for 3.5 grams. Like what?
It's ridiculous, man.
That's the way it is. Yeah. And you can't see it. There's no like going, oh, I like it, or smelling it.
Could you? I'm so sorry. I have to actually go take a wiki leak right now. So if you want to keep talking to the audience while I go do that, I'll be back in a flush.
All right.
All right, keep going.
Okay, so we've got him going for a break, and I guess you guys are completely different than my normal crowd, probably. So I'll just tell you a little bit more about me. I'm based in Saskatchewan, Canada, and I wanted to speak today more about, again, getting a picture of what's going on around the world. Because New Zealand, Australia, Canada, we're all undergoing the very same process right now. And to me, that is that global governance is operating de facto through the World Health Organization and operating in every country. In Canada, that's manifested into chief medical officers of each province that are collectively the WHO representatives. And as far as I'm concerned here, as we are still in a public health emergency, and it doesn't matter what province you're in across my country, it doesn't matter what the state of COVID is. Meaning, for example, in my province, we've had less than 2,000 cases of COVID. And the last year's seasonal flu was about 2,500. So as you can see, COVID has made less of a dent, even with the knowledge that, well, just my question, whoever went and tested for the flu? I don't know how they got 2,500 people saying they were testing for the flu, but at the end of the day, I've never been for a flu test, and when I ask around, nobody has. No, the flu is 100% undocumented for a lot of. Do you notice that in New Zealand? Like, has the flu disappeared, or is it still there or being reported?
I don't know, because as far as I know, anytime somebody's got a hernia or a lung condition or a sore foot or something, they died of COVID-19. Right? That's basically the narrative now. Nobody dies of anything unless it was caused by COVID-19. All right. A man gets shot by police. He runs into a burning building. He inhales smoke, and then an air conditioning unit falls on him. What killed him? COVID-19.
Sorry. It's true. It's true. Again, they can have multiple comorbidities. And again, I mean, once the numbers keep going like they're going, there's just no stopping it. So I've seen incidences, for example, in British Columbia, the provincial numbers for confirmed cases, and this is before the states of emergency went in, they had a number, and then on the Health Canada, so the national data, they had 77 more. So what they were doing is they were taking the probable cases and adding them to the confirmed and getting the numbers up.
Well, you seem to have been muted there. I can't hear you. You seem to have gone on mute. Let's just see what's going on here. No, don't seem to be getting any audio. I can't even hear my audio back, actually. Hold on one second. Getting a grind on there. Huh. Yeah, my audio's just dead. It appears to be reading, but I can't hear anything. Okay, now I can hear you. Oh wait, no, I can hear myself, but not you. Whoa, that's an oddity. Okay, well, I was going to close out the show anyway. It appears my mic is still working there on my live stream, but your audio is just being cut out. So let's see if we can go to its preferences and see what we can do. Webcam updates. No, I can't see any audio preference settings here. Sorry guys, yeah, sorry, I don't know what to do. So I'll just thank you very much for your time, and yeah, we're going to have to leave it right there and just do some hand signals. Yeah, peace. Okay. Thank you very much, Martine, Carlina, for having me. But unfortunately, the audience can't hear you no more, and neither can I. So we have to like reconnect this session, perhaps. I don't know. But we'll thank you very much for the show, nonetheless, and we'll see you again next time. All right, cheers. There she goes, ladies and gentlemen. And again, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully you can support the show at the Vinny Eastwood Show.com. I'll have to mute myself out of this one. There we go. Thank you very much for watching the Vinny Eastwood Show.com, and Martine Carlina's a little show with me here today, and as always, the show is listener supported, so you can please go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com or have a look at your links in the description, and you can donate to support the broadcast, preferably starting up an automatic payment into the KiwiBank or the PayPal or the Patreon. Those are the ways to give regular support to the broadcast. So sorry about those technical difficulties there, folks. Don't know exactly what happened, but that's what happens when you're doing across new broadcasting platforms. That's why I like to use Skype to a large degree, because it's very reliable. Okay, so am I doing a show today? I haven't got any guests for my show today, ladies and gentlemen, so maybe this will be the show for the day. So again, thank you very much for watching, and I would like to show you again little baby, if we can, or is it this one here? There, that's what we need.
Just so cute, but the sweet. Oh, my bubsy. Yeah. Oh, my baby. Daddy loves you. Oh, you're so cute.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's what I wanted to show you guys. It's my baby. So if you want to support my baby and support me and that sort of thing, please go to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com and support us today. Unfortunately, the interviewer of the thing, their audio just bunked out for some reason. Don't know what the technical issue was there, so we had to lose them. But in either case, again, man, I'm just dithering here. I'm so tired. It was very early. But yeah, thanks very much to the mods, to Nell88 and others in the chat room. for helping to keep out the riff-raff, and Dillip Funbar. Who else have we got in here? Marley Pumpkin was watching. On the Fence with Muzza, of course. Thank you, brother. And yeah, so many great mods that we have here to keep the show going. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very, very tired, so I'm going to go and rest up a little bit, and hope you've enjoyed the show, and we will see you again sometime, folks. I am not a credible journalist. I'm an incredible journalist.